Whakaalawhalahia, I'm Esther Pavihi and welcome to our bulletin of BCN News. A special whakaalawha to our viewers from across the Pacific, thanks to our partner Pacifica TV. Leading the news tonight, in honour of former Premier Honourable Sani Lakatani, the Public Service Commission yesterday announced a public holiday, a day of remembrance in honour of the former Premier. The government, through the office of the Niue Assembly, confirmed that the Prime Minister Dalton Tagilangi and a high-level government delegation will await the arrival of the family and the body of the former Premier at the VIP lounge at the airport tomorrow. Here are some of the details of the state funeral planned for the former Premier, Honourable Sani Lakatani. The state funeral arrangements for the former Premier, Honourable Sani Lakatani, will start at the airport tomorrow. According to the office of the Niue Assembly, the Whanokepule, the Prime Minister Dalton Tagilangi, the members of Cabinet, Speaker and the Chair of the House Committee will receive the family at the VIP and present the flag. BCN News understands that Prime Minister Dalton Tagilangi will be leaving the island on official business tomorrow and will not be at the funeral. The cortege will depart the airport for the village of Tuapa as soon as the formalities with the family are completed. In following the wishes of the family, the funeral service will be held at the Ecclesia Keresiano Tuapa and will be led by the village pastor, Reverend Basine Viviani. Many public facilities, including the bank, will be closed tomorrow in honour of the former Premier. Meanwhile, the people of his village, Tuapa Uhamotu, have been busy this week tidying up the village green, the church and the village hall to welcome the Lakatani family, bringing their son back home. The former Premier Sani Lakatani was last on the island for the 50th anniversary of self-government in October of 2024. It is an honour and a privilege of this job to be able to sit down and talk with our elders, our leaders. I am grateful for the opportunity to sit down with him at that time. This was his last interview with BCN News at the time, and he was saying how happy he was with the celebrations.
They must be very important to me and the family because they prepared and booked the airfares to come for the celebration. I thought I'll be part of it because I play part of the, I think I came to New Zealand 16-year-old in Puriwhakamotu, 16 and 19, in 1990. And went into politics at that time. So it's 16 years old, I remember, because my first speech to the New Zealand Foreign Affairs officials who came here to advise the government what sort of aid that we should receive from New Zealand. And I remember I made a speech at that time. It was so important, Esther. But I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the government, the leader of the government, and his cabinet, and the Whanokepule, everybody in there. It was wonderful. What a plan for the celebration.
He spoke to us about a book he was writing about his time as the Premier of Niue, and he also spoke about his aspirations for this country.
My advice is to read my book and try to analyze it properly. I know it's controversial, like I said in the beginning, but the truth has to come out. They probably think that I'm like what they called me when I first came here. Oh, where's that man come from? He's an alien. Everything was there against me. But all I want is to help to develop something, to have a sustainable income. We can do it. We can earn an income, the right of a sustainable income, I should say, for our country.
Here he spoke about the relationship between Niue and New Zealand, about dealing with leaders and officials of the New Zealand government at the time he was the Premier.
Esther, honestly, the New Zealand will think like this. We have played our part. We give the money, but we also go back. They can't to account that for that money. That's all they can do. The rest is up to us to do. There's nothing to stop us tap into other sources around the world. It's, and I don't know why it's stopping our people here. With a fear of something. I think the people of here, the leaders, a fear of missing a New Zealand citizenship or something. I don't know. There's nothing to fear about. You know, I don't think New Zealand want to do any more. The New Zealand government will say we've done our part. We participate as promised. Obliged to give you the necessary fund to do what you want to pay the public service. And when I came up here, there's another thing. More than 800 people work for the government. It was my policy to reduce that by half. It is still the same. I think it was still 400 people in the government today.
He also spoke about having to make decisions between his political career and his family, his wife who could not return to Niue because of her health.
She went to check up like almost every 3 months to get a check. And the doctor told her that she cannot come back to Niue. She has to stay in New Zealand to carry out the hemodialysis 3 times a week. When I came from overseas, I don't know where I was at the time, and she went to check up. I talked to her on the telephone, and I said, well, come and have a look. So I went to New Zealand, and I look at the situation. She has to drive herself to the hemodialysis unit in Grafton, Auckland Hospital, 3 times a week.
The former Premier is remembered for his ambitions and his willingness to push the boundaries at a time when Niue was in its early stages of nation building. When I asked him about his views on Niue's current journey to expand diplomatic relations with other countries, this was his response.
Oh, absolutely. That's the way. I established the High Commission office in Wellington. And the idea was to talk with those foreign ambassadors, the embassies, visit them, asking them how they could help produce our plan, the government plan. To say, here it is, can you help? And which way they like to help. I praise the Lord that happened. It's the kind of thing I like to happen. At the time when I left, everything when I came back about 10 years later, it was nothing happened. And it was so sad. It made me say, now you're telling me the things is, oh, now you make my day. Those things happen. See that I predicted time. I was told by a consultant IMF. I can tell you that a little bit. He said to me, the trouble with you is under New Zealand. It's good in New Zealand too, the constitution. Do away with it. Become independent. He said to me, you can put an embassy in New York with a UN in it. Contact the world to come and help you. The self-determination, there was a term made by the United Nations. Self-determination, to help the developed country, to help the undeveloped country. All we're going to do is to make a plan and a project you want to be funded by somebody, and it will happen. But the projects I want to do, like I said, the next thing that's going to happen is honestly, when I started, China agreed when I asked to fund a communication satellite for Niue. Well, that's the source that we're going to make in Niue. become a to earn a sustainable income. That do all the protection. These American people advising me, and they advised me to talk to China. Yeah, he's our politics in the world. Hey, I know the truth because I was there. I dealt. I talked with them, and it was exciting.
Over the past week and a half, we have heard and read tributes on social media for the former Premier. Here on the island, as we await the state funeral tomorrow, we also spoke to some of our current leaders. Not many current public servants served under the Lakatani Premiership from the 1999 until 2002. Speaker of the Niue Assembly now, Honourable Hima Douglas, was a newly elected Common Roll member at the time, and he was appointed by Premier Lakatani and his cabinet as Niue's first High Commissioner to Wellington. And veteran politician Olaf Jacobson also spoke to us about serving with the former Premier in cabinet as first-time ministers in 1993. Speaker Hima Douglas spoke about Lakatani's aspirations for Niue, his dreams of a regional airlines, his dreams of making Niue a tourist hub much like Singapore. He spoke about serving a premier who was not short of ideas of how to develop his country.
I think that in the end, I think what Sonny decided was that he wasn't going to get anywhere just by relying on New Zealand assistance. If he was going to put into practice some of the things that he would like to see on the island, he was going to have to try and find another source of funding from somewhere. And that was when SAR began pushing the envelope, pushing the boundaries. And there are people who will say that sometimes he pushed the boundary just a little bit too far. But that was out of sheer frustration, because Lakatani, he understood that political independence is good, but at that stage we had political independence. That meant was that we were able to do what we want on our own island, but without a certain degree of economic independence, your political independence will always be limited. And that, I think, was what was frustrating Sonny most of the time. And that was why he stepped outside the boundaries, as it were, looking for means of generating income. And Sonny liked reading, and he admired Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. And I think that led to him entertaining the idea of a walled holy city, something similar to the Vatican. And he saw this as a possible solution to our limited resources, where these people had plenty of money to bring to the country. The medical school got off the ground. The people running the medical school, at least they had the reputation of being good people. They had established their credentials in the Caribbean, and apparently it was a very successful offshore medical school operating in the Caribbean. And it was a branch of that came to the island. But you will remember at that time, tourism was at a standstill. And so Sonny looked beyond the boundaries and said, look, Hotel Niue was sitting there, costing money, doing nothing. And so that was the idea of the medical school. And the medical school was up and running, but for reasons for various reasons, it failed, and the students had to be repatriated. But that was just one example of how far Sonny Lakatani was prepared to go to achieve his purpose of developing the island, of generating further revenues for his government.
Common Role Member of Parliament Olaf Jacobson paid tribute to a leader who she says was a nice man, and they served together as first-time ministers during the Frank Fogosi-Manavalui premiership from 1993 until Lakatani was ousted from cabinet in 1994. Jacobson said that it has been a privilege and an honour in her lengthy 30-odd years of political public service to have served under all 6 premiers, and she credits all of them for playing a part in harnessing her political and leadership skills. She extended her best wishes to the country as we lay to rest one of our former premiers. Jacobson is currently in Auckland for medical reasons and will not be at the funeral. Meanwhile, Speaker Hima Douglas says that the former premier has certainly left his mark in Niue's history.
He wanted to do things, but he lacked the resources, the actual physical cash to do what he wanted, because he was a great admirer of Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, and how Lee Kuan Yew had taken Singapore from a backwater, from a little Asian village, and turned it into a force to be reckoned with in Southeast Asia. So Sunny saw that as an idea for Niue, and that led to his promoting the idea of an airline, where he was hoping that he would form Coral Airways, which would act as the hub to distribute, to offer a regional air service. And up till now, people are crying out for regional air service. It still hasn't been done. I don't know if we will ever do it. But his ability, the fact that he received basic education on the island, but he lifted himself. He wanted more than just being another worker in New Zealand, and led him to come back home. And I think it's for Sa, even though some of the things that he wanted to do didn't work, the old adage, better to try and fail and to never have tried at all.
And on behalf of the BCN News team, we convey our sincere condolences to the family at this time. And in other news, the principal of Niue High School, Charles Ioane, says that he is extremely satisfied and proud of the students' performance in the NCEA for 2025. In an email to BCN News earlier this week, Principal Ioane released the preliminary results for Niue High School students. Of the 20 students in Year 13, 11 of them passed university entrance, or 55% passed UE. For NCEA Level 3, of the 20 students, 12, or 60% passed Level 3. For NCEA Level 2, 64% passed. Of the 28 students enrolled in NCEA Level 2, 18 of them passed Level 2. For NCEA Level 1, 51% passed Level 1. Of the 35 students enrolled, 18 of them passed. According to the school, the literacy and numeracy results have taken a while to be updated, as some of the students are still waiting on these requirements for their qualifications. In 2024, Niue High School had some of the lowest pass rates, with only 20% who attained university entrance during that time. Meanwhile, Principal Charles Ioane says that despite the many obstacles along the way, he is proud of the students and the teachers for their performance in the NCEA for 2025. The former Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Emmy Hipa, is the third Commissioner of the Public Service Commission. The appointment was made by Cabinet in December last year. Commissioner Emmy Hipa joins the acting chair of the Public Service Commission, Fisa Pingia, and Commissioner Fapui Akesi. Here's more. Mrs. Emmy Hipa first joined the Niue Public Service in 2012, working with the Office of the Secretary of Government. She went on to work with External Affairs, where she ascended to head the Department of Foreign Affairs. Her 3-year term with the Public Service Commission started on the 1st of this month and was announced by the Public Service Commission about 2 weeks ago. Dr. Noah Bunkley, who is the lead investigator in the study of the Cool Roof Research Project, is back on the island for the final stages of the study. Dr. Bunkley spoke to BCN News earlier this week about the final stages and also about replicating the study in Fiji. The study led by Auckland University aims to determine the benefits of applying a cooling resin on the roofs of homes to reduce the impacts of heat on the health of people. 200 households in Niue took part in the study.
We've just finished 12 months of follow-up data collection now, and so I'm here in Niue along with my supervisor Chris to close out the project. So we've had some, great commitment from the team here over the last year and a half, and so sort of bittersweet moment to end the project now. And then start looking at all the data that we have collected. I imagine we'll plan for some time after the cyclone season to make another trip back here, and where we can then share the results with the team that worked on the project, the community and government officials, so we can really start hopefully trying to make some change based on the results that we find.
The team has started working with the Fiji National University to replicate the study in Fiji.
Very ambitious with what we were hoping to do here in Niue, and I think we did really well considering the work that we were doing. We managed to get just over 200 households involved in our project, and there's about 530 households in Niue, so that's a pretty good completion rate. But we were hoping for 400. And so to get those numbers, we're looking at working with a team in Fiji through the Fiji National University, and we'll be working with them in the coming months to set up the study over there.
As the world adapts to the changing climate and the very hot conditions, studies like this will help inform public policies and also help guide decisions on how to adapt and cope with the heat.
And in terms of heat, which is just one of the many impacts that climate change will have on communities, we know that temperatures are rising, and we know that living with high temperatures can be bad for people's health. So this is why we're doing the research, is because we think it's extremely important to be able to find ways to help communities adapt to the changing climate. And we hope that our research here with the Reflect trial and the Cool Roofs can potentially identify one of many possible solutions that can help people, households, communities adapt to a changing climate.
The participants of the study who did not get their roofs painted will have the paint after April this year, when the cyclone season comes to an end. Reverend Dr. Matangi Jessup Vilitama is the new chairperson of the Wangahau Niue Commission, announced by the Department of Taonga Niue yesterday. The Cabinet had also appointed two other members, Mrs. Shawena Tānaki Awe and Mrs. Mele Nemaia, to the Commission. In a statement yesterday, the government thanked the former chairperson, Mrs. Sifaole Ioane, and former members, Reverend Nevi Salatielu and Mrs. Mokatano Puliosi. Here's the story. The Wangahau Niue Commission is made up of 3 members appointed by Cabinet. They will join a representative from the Niue Council of Women and a representative from the Niue Youth Council. The ex officio members of the Commission are the directors of the Taonga Niue and the Department of Education. The Wangahau Niue Commission serves a 3-year term. And staying with Taonga Niue news, the call for registrations for the Taonanga Tufunga Whakamotu is now open for all villages. Organised by the Department of Taonga Niue, the Taonanga Tufunga Whakamotu is planned for the 18th of April to showcase the traditional dances and songs of the different villages. The event is organised to revive and keep alive the songs and dances unique to each village. Villagers are asked to register now until the 26th of February, when registrations will close. Only the 14 villages can register for this event, according to organisers. To end our bulletin tonight, in one of the largest collaboration in BCN's history with the production company in Auckland, New Zealand, Kingston Production, to produce a 5-episode documentary series about 6 descendants of Niue. A small launch last night was hosted by Kingston Production in Auckland. And BCN News and BCN will be hosting a small launch to mark the premiere of the first episode this coming weekend. And the first episode will be premiered on TV Niue's Channel 1 at 7 p.m. on Sunday. Descendants of Niue, Tau Holonga Niue is a documentary produced by Kingston Productions of New Zealand and BCN with funding from NZ On Air in partnership with BCBL and Pacifica TV. And that is the news for tonight. BCN News will be back on Tuesday next week for our bulletin in Wangahau. But from all of us here in the team, good night.